Welcome back to Tiger Drop Films, yes. But first, I want to give a sincere thanks to everyone who liked and enjoyed my Like a Dragon Gaiden predictions and comparing the Dragons of Yakuza videos. It means a lot that you guys enjoy them, and it makes me happy to see them doing well. So, thank you. Grab your Stamina X and your favorite weapon for cracking skulls, and let's get into it. So, today's video is going to be about how Yakuza 7 honors its legacy characters without diminishing their purpose or their legacy, and not in a way that make the new hero feel all-powerful, because let's be honest, Yakuza is great at honoring Kiryu, Majima, and Saejima. There's going to be a lot of spoilers for Yakuza 7, so you've been warned, but let's get into it. If you're a part of any fandom, I'm sure you've come across conversations where people debate how legacy characters or returning characters that are beloved were treated in a new entry, right? Let's say Star Wars or pretty much anything these days, they bring back their iconic characters for another bout. When these characters return, it's not always spades and glory. Sometimes it may feel like a hollow shell of its former self, repeating old ideas without doing anything new, but when it comes to Yakuza 7, they've managed to bring back Kiryu, Saejima, and Majima in particular, to not just have them for the sake of a hell yeah moment, but for the sake of honoring these legends and how much they've impacted the series, of course. So let's get into the nitty gritty of how Yakuza 7 handles its returning characters with pride, dignity, and all-around badassery, compared to some other franchises who do it just to get people's money, right? Because remember, Yakuza 7 is all about Ichiban Kasuga, the dragon of rock bottom, and his power of friendship. And these legacy characters, their boss fights do not occur till much later in the game, which really surprised me, but for the better, because I like this choice. The Majima and Saejima boss battle. Oh man, this one gave me so much trouble. I died about 3,000 times until I had the grind, which I'm okay to grind if it's for Majima, you know what I mean? But this fight really sticks in the minds of fans, old and newcomers alike. So keep in mind that when respecting your legacy characters, you should make it so that any newcomers, even if they are not familiar with the series, when encountering these characters, they know they mean something and that they're in for a treat. And I've read so many comments on YouTube where people are new to the series and they're like, man, when I came across Majima, I knew that the series respects their characters, which I think says a lot. And quite frankly, when it comes to Majima, hearing his cackle enter the room from off screen, I think says everything, right? For anybody playing this, if you're an old fan, you know that things are about to go down, it's about to get brutal, and it's about to be a hell of a time. As we see Ichiban and his team realize that this guy is a legend. And Majima is not the only legend in the room, he's accompanied by none other than his brother Saejima. Taiga Saejima and Goro Majima. Two legends, the Tiger and the Mad Dog. Oh man, and the fight definitely lives up. Because you spend the first half of the fight fighting Majima, right? If you're not careful, he can one-shot your whole team, and he can create these shadow clones, which really are not anything to be joked around or messed with. They will mess up your whole playthrough if you're not careful. And the shadow doppelgangers in of itself is a nice reference to Yakuza 5. So you can see not only are they just bringing back Majima for another great boss fight, but they're bringing back mechanics from past games and implementing them in this new JRPG system. And so once you whittle down half of Majima's health bar, if you're still alive, Taiga Saejima will jump into the fight with his brand new green fiery heat aura, and it's awesome because if you thought Majima's one-shot attacks were hard enough, wait till you get to Saejima's shoulder tackle and all his uppercuts, and he'll toss around your team like ragdolls. It's brutal, man. And I gotta say, listening to the new Receive and Turn You, it pumps up the blood so much. And you know that it's just a fight for the ages. And technically none of these characters know each other, but they're beating the shit out of each other. That's awesome. Like that QuickTime event where Saejima and Majima, you finally see these two brothers with decades of history being able to fight alongside one another despite their age, and they don't look like they age, trust me. This quick time movement is so awesome as you see poor Ichiban getting the ever-living crap beat out of him. But Ichiban gets up and continues to fight with his friends. But Ichiban and his crew are able to hold their ground just long enough to barely put any damage on Majima and Saejima, as seen in the cutscene, until Daigo shows up. Yes, Daigo Dojima, another legacy character. And he's able to stop the fight, or realize that the brothers were just holding back the entire time. So, if they fought at their full strength and power, I think the whole Omi Alliance HQ would have been shattered. But Ichiban and his team managed to survive just long enough. That in of itself shows how much respect RGG has given Saejima and Majima. Right? If these two characters are able to give a lasting impression on players new and old, and then they say that they weren't even at their full power, I think that says a lot, and it makes people want to investigate these guys' whole story and past games. And then the game shows us Daigo, Dojima, and Watase. Now, Watase was an awesome surprise. I was so happy he returned. Honestly, him and Daigo do not receive much screen time, but what they do get is dismantling the two biggest Yakuza factions in the franchise. So they still have importance to the plot, and I think the fact that they were used sparingly, probably for the better, and I can't wait to see them return. Let's talk about the dragon in the room, Kazuma Kiryu, and his incredible boss fight and role in the story. So after this chapter against Saejima and Majima, we go to the dismantling of the Omi Alliance and the Tojo with Daigo and Watase. And during this big brawl in the panel room, right as Watase is about to get stabbed, we see a fist break into the screen, or break into the shot, and it's none other than Kazuma Kiryu. Yes, and we hear awesome slight melody receive you play. So that's the player's first experience of Kiryu in this game, his big return, and it's awesome, man. We get to see the other legacy characters actually acknowledge Kiryu being back, which is pretty sweet, makes you want more, but I'm glad they just gave us a little snippet. So, later on, we see Ichiban go down a bit of a rageful path, right? Something terrible has happened to him, and it's a big loss that's affected him. So he becomes more rageful and just brutish, and this is when Kiryu enters to stop Ichiban from killing a man, where Kiryu invites Ichiban into the Komi-Juru's base, or the Spattered Webs, which they're pretty much just the G1 Mafia updated. And here's where we have the fight between two dragons. Ichiban, the dragon on the rock bottom, against Kazuma Kiryu, the dragon of Dojima, which should go without saying. And first of all, I like that this fight takes place in just the basement of the Korean Mafia. There's a staircase, which I guess represents the treasure that Kiryu's protecting, just so Ichiban can get his mind set straight. But the fact that this boss fight for the main legacy character of the Yakuza franchise, the legend himself, Kiryu, the fact it takes place in a dingy, gray basement area that's all shriveled down and needs fixing up, I think it works, right? Because Kiryu doesn't need this big, grand palace to fight in or something fancy schmancy. No, Kiryu himself is the event, not the area around him. And it's a great place for his fight, because it makes it all the more cinematic as these two Yakuza are about to duke it out, as Ichiban needs his friends to help him stand just a little bit of a chance against Kiryu. And the purpose of this fight is that Kiryu knows that he's going to win, right? Kiryu knows that he just needs to fight Ichiban long enough to see if Ichiban is worthy enough to pass. And that's great. Just like the way Saejima and Majima were holding back, so is Kiryu. But Kiryu holds back more so to teach a big lesson, instead of just fighting these people he just met, is to see what they're made of. And both of these methods work into upholding these characters and why fans love them. And so, let's talk about how Kiryu's fight goes, right? We get this awesome cinematic of the Azure Dragon behind Kiryu, which reflects his tattoo, of course, as he fights Ichiban in knight armor, because Ichiban thinks he's the hero of his story, which is awesome. It shows these two characters and their dynamic and the juxtaposition of how they're so different to each other. And Kiryu's fight also involves some one-shot moves, which makes sense because we've all played as him, we know how goddamn powerful he is. But he also uses his fighting styles from Zero and Kiwami, which was a nice touch, and I guess shows that Kiryu was really going easy on Ichiban before he brings out his iconic dragon style. But it was nice to see these styles return in an RPG format, and Kiryu and Beast Mode just throws around a bunch of flaming barrels out of nowhere, which is terrifying, but hey, at least he didn't have a bike with him, right? But yes, the Tiger Drop returns, I believe the knockback does too. And it's interesting, as many people have pointed out, that Kiryu will not attack any of the women in Ichiban's team, which is a cool touch, and it shows how different he is compared to the other characters. But of course, I have to talk about the Receive You theme playing, which you can probably hear right now during the video. Kiryu's theme in this game is referred to as Receive You version 7, or Rolling Eyes Down the Dragon Waterfall. And I gotta say, this might be my favorite version of Receive You. And if you listen to it back to back with the Receive You version 0 and Yakuza 0, they do sound a bit similar, which I think is a great touch. In fact, the theme from 0 even appears in Kiryu's summon in this game. So it's clear that these two themes represent Kiryu at his beginning in 0, and then the version 7 represents his wisdom as an older character who's been through a lot, but still has all his power even more refined. It's cool, man, because both of these themes have the rolling eyes fall down at the chorus playing in a more techno feel, but man, Kiryu's theme in 7 is godly, powerful, intimidating, and at the same time feels wise and genuine, right? It's not just, hey, look how tough this guy is. It's more of, look, you're dealing with a character who's been through a lot, but he's not going to talk down anybody. He's just going to give you a fight to see who you really are. And I think that defines Kiryu's character as a whole, because if you look at all the antagonists he's fought, a good handful of them were tests, as we saw in 4, 5, and 6, where Kiryu fought these final antagonists that were not necessarily a threat to him on a physical or power scale, just enough so he could see if they really wanted their goals, which is what he does Ichiban in this game. So I think it's quite poetic that we get to see Kiryu return to be the Azure Dragon that tests the new hero of the series, Ichiban. So, since these legacy characters do not have a lot of screen time in Yakuza 7, which is probably for the better, so Ichiban and his whole new cast and side characters can develop, they definitely leave an impact. And perhaps most importantly, they remind people why these characters matter and why people adore them. Because we've seen their journey, and we've seen their struggle, and we've seen how newcomers to the series can become infatuated with these legends that they haven't seen before. When I got into the Yakuza series, it was with Yakuza 0 about 3 years ago, and on the back of the box, there's this text that reads, "Witness Kiryu and Majima before they became legends." So back then, I didn't know what that meant, even though I've seen these characters before in stores, but after playing through every Yakuza game and most of the spin-offs, and getting the 7, it was beautiful to see this journey of these characters and how they've grown to be these legends, and now I can safely say I know why they are legends. But the point here was how the Yakuza franchise pretty much excels more often than not at honoring these characters. And I think a lot of franchises can take notes from this, especially in regards to fan response, right? Most fans were pretty happy with the way these characters reappeared, as they only took the spotlight when they needed to. The fact that they appear so late in Yakuza 7 and they aren't even part of the final battle, I think says a lot. I think most franchises today are struggling with nostalgia and bringing back characters meaningfully, with a purpose. And with the 2 new games on the horizon, Gaiden and Yakuza 8, Yes, they're definitely going to be more fan service heavy, but I trust RGG to do it with purpose, especially after playing Ishin, which brought back, pretty much every character we know. And I don't know, it's the philosophy of RGG and Yakuza, how they definitely go for the cool factor, but they do it with one eye winking at the audience and one eye looking like, hey, this is going to be badass and we're going to have fun. And we might make you cry along the way. I think that is kind of what the Yakuza series is like. And because at the end of the day, fans just want to enjoy their favorite series or franchise or whatever it is, you know? And I know with the culture we live in nowadays of, I guess, fandoms being everywhere, some of them being insane or some of them just being divisive, but I think they're all like that, right? Sometimes people just want to see their characters they grew up with or that they resonated with be treated well and with dignity. And so I think Yakuza 7 did a really stellar job in that regard. Other companies and franchises and writers should look at the way Yakuza handled its legacy characters and definitely take a note or two from it. And when it comes to the other characters that were brought back to life in 7, well, that might be a story for another day. But in the context of 7's narrative, I really enjoyed what they did. And with the inclusion of Majima, Saejima, and Kiryu, you do feel like this is another point in their journey, and which is why their fights keep you on the edge of your seat. Because remember, gameplay is important, and the fact that they leave an impact through gameplay alone, coupled with the awesome storytelling, shows why we love these legacy characters, and why we're happy to see them return. So, thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments if you liked the way they treated these characters, or if you didn't, then please let me know. It's fun to hear new thoughts and opinions. And remember to drink your Stamina X, because if it begins with S and ends with X, it's gotta be Stamina X. Tiger Drop Films out.